So we are discussing the rights in the Indian Constitution. We've already discussed four. Let's discuss the fifth one, which is culture and educational right. You might wonder why were the constitution makers were so particular in providing written guarantee of the rights of the minorities. We've always seen that they've mentioned it very clearly in the constitution what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. Why are there no special guarantees for the majorities? Okay, we've seen that the constitution guarantees for the minority people who are vulnerable and might be at a disadvantage, but there are no special provisions for people who are majority. Why so? Well, for the simple reason that the working of democracy gives power to the majority. This is because, for simple reason that in a democracy the power actually goes to the working of democracy gives power to the majority. It is the language, culture, and religion of minority that needs to be, that needs the special protection. If you already have a big number, you already have the strength and the group to speak for yourself. But if you are only five people, your voice is among the 100. If there are 100 from one group and you are only five people from another group, your voice will not even be heard. Your voice will not even be your voice will not even reach. So that is why it's very important to actually protect them. Otherwise they may get neglected or undermined under the impact of the language, religion, and culture of majority. Because we see there are many examples in the society. Just turn around and see that it is always the majority who has special powers and everything, because they have a big group to speak for themselves. That is why constitution specifies the cultural and educational rights of the minorities. Any section of citizens with a distinct language or culture have the right to conserve it. So if my I have a language that is not spoken by many people and everything, then I have the right to save my culture, or and to save my language. Admission to say any educational institution maintained by government or receiving government aid cannot be denied to any citizens on the ground of on the ground of religion. So any admission, in the educational institution, we see colleges and everything, they cannot be denied, or you say that you will not be paid the government aid because you belong to this religion or language in Falana. All minorities have the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice, and they even have the right to establish a educational this thing institution to save your culture. you know and here minority does not mean only religious minority at the national level. In some places, people speaking a particular language here language are in majority, people speaking a different language are in minority. Okay, Telugu speaking people are form a majority in Andhra Pradesh, but they are minority in the neighboring state of Karnataka. Six constitute a majority in Punjab, but they are a minority in Rajasthan, Haryana, and Delhi. Read these news reports and identify the right that is being debated in each of these cases. An emergency session in the Shiromani Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee rejected the proposal to form a separate body to manage the affairs of the Sikh shrines in Haryana. It warned the government that the Sikh would not tolerate any interference in their religion affairs. Then, of course, it is their this thing. Yeah. First, we are talking about that anyone, any here, for example, we are talking about six. Okay, so here we are talking about that in this example. So then here what they want to is, say, if you want to identify what is being debated, then people have they have the right to profess, practice, or propagate their religion. They have the right to administer their own religion how they want to do it. And that's what they say, that they would not tolerate any interference in the religion affairs, because the India is a secular state, and according to that, the government has to maintain a principled and equal distance from all the religions. And second is the Allahabad High Court quashed, matlab cancel out a central law which which gave Aligarh Muslim University its minority status and held it illegal the reservation for of seats for Muslim in its postgraduate medical courses. So here it is, because admission to any educational institutions which is made by government or receiving any government aid, they cannot be denied any citizens. They cannot deny any citizens just because they do not belong to that religion. That's wrong. So here when we're saying that, because here other persons, you're saying okay, you're protecting your people, this minority group, and you by giving them in this medical institution. But also when we are saying that other people are being denied because they are not being given the entry into the medical college because they do not belong to that particular group, right? So admission to any educational institutions which is maintained by government or is receiving government aid, they cannot be denied to any citizen on the ground just because of religion. Okay. Then the Rajasthan government has decided to enact an anti-conversion law. Christian leaders have said that the bill would aggravate the sense of insecurity and fear in the minds of minorities. Of course it is very true, and this we are debating about the right to conserve a group of sections, or a community. They have the right to conserve their culture and their religion, because nobody knows them better as the religion as they themselves, right? Also there have been many times debates and everything. So coming to a proper conclusion is very important. Here we are saying, because the culture and educational rights were being violated, their right to freedom of religion were being violated, because India is a secular state. As a secular state has to maintain unprincipled and equal distance from all the religion. Okay. So that is why we saw how these were being debated, and we saw that what was the debatable part and where it comes from, the idea behind this. Then now we've seen the five rights. Now when we talk about the when we talk about the sixth and the last fundamental right, then let's see about that. What is that? How can we secure these rights? We've told that you have right to do this, you have right to do that, but how do we assure that we are getting that right? Okay. So if rights are like guarantees, they are of no use if there is no one to honor them. Just like we said that you know um, we see that if you want your right, you want your or you want to claim your right, then it should be accepted by the society, and there should be some enforcement agency to assure that you have. So what how is our right ensured here? All these five rights, we have the right to seek the enforcement of the above mentioned rights. This is called right to constitutional remedies. This itself is a fundamental right. This right makes the other rights effective. So this is actually important, that this right is actually what makes the other rights effective. This right makes sure that we have access and we get other rights. Okay. It is possible that sometimes our rights may be violated by fellow citizens, private bodies, or even by government. When any of our rights are violated, we seek remedy through courts. If it is a fundamental right, we can directly approach the Supreme Court or the High Court of a state. No, and that is where this right to constitutional remedies comes into play. When any of our rights are violated, we can seek remedy to through courts. If it is a fundamental right, we can directly approach the Supreme Court or the High Court of a state. That is why Dr. B.R. Ambedkar called the right to constitutional remedies as the heart and soul of our constitution. And that is why this right right to constitutional remedy is correctly known as the heart and soul of our constitution, because this right which makes the other rights effective. Okay, fundamental rights are guaranteed against the actions of legislatures, the executive, and any other authorities which is instituted by the government. There can be no law or action that violates the fundamental rights. If any act of the legislature or the executive takes away or limits the rights of the fundamental right, it will be invalid. Okay, we can challenge such laws or of the central or the state government, the policies and actions of the government or the governmental organization like the Nationalized Bank or Electricity Board. Courts also enforce the fundamental rights against private individuals and bodies. The Supreme Court and the High Court have the power to issue, uh, directions, orders, or writs for the enforcement of the fundamental right. They can also award, compensation to the victim and punishment to the violators. We have already seen in chapter 5 that the judiciary in a country is independent of the government, and the independent of the government and the parliament. So the judiciary is is what who plays the major important role. It's very powerful and can do whatever is needed to protect the rights of the citizens. Okay, in the case of violation of fundamental right, the aggrieved person can go to a court for remedy, but now any person can go to the court against the violation of the fundamental right if it is a if it is of social or public interest. It is called public interest litigation. Under the PIL, any citizens or group of citizens, they can approach the Supreme Court for the High Court or the High Court for the protection of public interest against a particular law or action of the government. Just like we saw in many cases, we've seen the last chapter that how they went to the court and everything. One can write to the judges, even on a postcard. So you can write, the simple the procedure of filing an public interest litigation is has been made so simple that it is accessible to everybody can use it. The court will take up the matter if the judges find it in public interest. Activity: is there a state human rights commission in your state? Find out, about its activity. Write a petition to the NHRC if you know any instances of human rights violation in your area. Okay. So we did here, how can we secure these rights, whatever it's given. So here this child asks that, can the president of India stop you from approaching Supreme Court to secure your fundamental right? No. you know Nobody can stop you from approaching the Supreme Court if your right any if any of your rights has been violated. So we are supposed to do it here. Okay. Chitti Singapore militant killing. NHRC wants answers from Jammu and Kashmir. Admissions for blood. NHRC seeks reply on hospitals demand. अ, बाल मजदूरी मामले में कर्नाटका सरकार से रिपोर्ट मांगी. मास ग्रेव. NHRC seeks report from गुजरात. CBI. मेला उठाने की प्रथा रोकने. मेल मेल ओके इट्स मेल मतलब उठाने की प्रथा रोकने में ढिलाई से आयोग नाराज. Clarify on tribal deaths. NHRC asks, yeah, Andhra Pradesh government. Okay, AP government. This can even be, but yeah, this is Andhra because your tribals, it's Andhra Pradesh. Then let's see about this article, which is on National uh, Human Rights Commission. What does the role of national NHRC is? So did you notice the reference to the NHRC? We there are so many references which are there to the NHRC. So what does it do? Let's have a look at that. Okay. So in the above news collage on the page, these references reflect the growing awareness of human rights and struggle for human dignity. Everybody wants, human rights and dignity to live a good life. Many cases of Indian rights, violation of diverse fields, for instance, Gujarat rights, are being brought to the public notice from across India. Human rights organizations and the media often criticize government agencies for not seriously pursuing these cases or catching the culprits. Even still, Gujarat rights and all the rights which have ever happened in India, they are discussed and debated. Someone had to intervene on behalf of the victim. This is where the National Human Rights Commission stepped in. If victim is not alive, if victim is dead, he cannot approach the court. Somebody has to come and speak for them, and it is National Human Rights which steps in. It is an independent commission which was set up by law in 1993. Like a judiciary, the commission is independent of the government. The commission is appointed by the president, includes retired judges, officers, and eminent personalities. So mostly these are the commission members of the commission, yet it does not have the burden on decide yet it does not have the burden of deciding court cases. uh, so it can focus on helping the victim to secure their the main native aim or this thing of NHRC is to secure the human right of the victim. These include all the rights guaranteed to the citizens by the constitution. Okay, whatever rights, the five rights we've talked about. For NHRC, human rights also includes the rights mentioned in the United Nations sponsored international treaties that India signed. So India is also obliged to follow all the rights which it has duly signed in on all the international treaties. The NHRC cannot itself punish the guilty. That is a responsibility of the court. Of course, the NHRC cannot punish the guilty, but that's a responsibility of the court. But NHRC is there to make independent and credible inquiry into the case of violation of human rights. It also inquires into the case of abetment of such violation or negligence in controlling it by any government officer, and takes other general steps to promote human rights. So takes steps so that human rights can be promoted in the country. The commission represents its findings and recommendations to the government or intervene in the court on behalf of the victim. It has wide ranging powers to carry out its inquiry. Like any court, it can summon witnesses, question any government official, demand any official paper, visit any prison or inspection, or send its own team on the spot inquiry. So it can do so many things, and now any citizen of India can write a letter to address the complaint against the violation of human rights. If there's any violation, then they can write it to the commission. Okay, and National Human Rights Commission, this is the address. So if you have anything, regarding violation, or you've seen it happen in front of your eyes, or anybody of that, you can write it to this address: National Human Rights Commission, Faridgarh Courthouse, Copernicus Mart, New Delhi, 11001. There is no fee or any formal procedure to approach the NHRC. And like NHRC, there are state human rights commission also, in 21 states of the country as on 1st September 2012. So the number might have even increased now, but yes, as of 2012, there were 21 there was state human rights commission in 21 states of the country. So we've discussed, about all the six rights that we have in the institution, and we've seen the role of NHRC also, how it comes into play, whether we talk about, the main aim of it as to this thing as to secure the human right of the victim. And then we also hear that it can summon witness, question, and it cannot punish, because that's the responsibility of the court. uh, so yes, it is sad that NHRC cannot punish itself. The guilty cannot be punished by NHRC, but it can of course summon witnesses, question any government official, demand any official paper, visit any prison of infection, or even send its own team on the ground. You can write to NHRC on their address. They require no formal procedure and everything. Okay. So, and also all the retired judges, officers, and eminent citizens of a country, they are actually the part of the National Human Rights Commission. So let's see, is we've seen that now we've spoken about rights, what we have, how democratic is a country and or not, and let's see how do we extend the scope of rights. Okay, are these rights only for adults? Which of the rights are available for children? So there's this kid who's asking that, are these rights, whatever we've talked about, are these available only for the children? Are they not available for this thing, uh kids? So let's see on that. Okay, sorry. uh why is it shaky? It's flickering. Wait. Yeah. it's fine. Sorry. So we began this chapter by discussing the significance of rights. In much of the chapter we've discussed only on fundamental rights in the Constitution. You might think that the fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution are the only rights that citizens have. No, this is not true. While fundamental rights are the sources of all the rights, our constitution and law you know offers a wide variety of laws. These are the actually these fundamental rights are the source of the other rights which are provided to us. Over the years, the scope of rights has extended. When we saw the case of livelihood, of livelihood of the slum dwellers and how their source of income was the case. You can go back if you are not able to recall. Sometimes it leads to expansion in the legal rights that the citizens can enjoy. From time to time, the courts give judgments to expand the scope of rights. Certain rights like the right to freedom of press, right to information, right to education are derived from the fundamental rights. Right to press, right to information, right to education, they are derived from the fundamental rights. Now school education has become a right of for so Indian citizens. The government are responsible for providing free and compulsory education to all children up to the age of 14 years. So this is actually very important, that how the scope of fundamental rights is increasing year by year. Parliament has enacted a law giving the right to information, RTI, which is to all the citizens. This act was made by the under the fundamental right that they have the right to freedom and expression and freedom of thought and expression. We have the right to seek information from government offices. Recently, the Supreme Court has expanded the meaning of the right to life to include right to food. Of course, right to food should come under right to life, because if you do not have food, how are you going to stay alive? You cannot. You will die of starvation, of hunger. Also, rights are not limited to fundamental rights as enumerated in the Constitution provides many more rights which may not be fundamental rights. For example, the right to property is not a fundamental right, but it is a constitutional right. A right to vote in election is an important constitutional right. So there are many rights which are not fundamental rights, but the Constitution, it is a constitutional right, because it is provided in the Constitution, where we talk about the right to vote in an election, or right to have a property. Sometimes expansion takes place in what it is called as sometimes the expansion takes place what is called human rights. We also refer to sometimes human rights. These are universal moral claims. Moral claim, we've talked about claims a lot of times, and so these are universal moral claims that may not have been recognized by law. So we say that these are human rights and they might not have or have been actually been recognized by law, in that sense that these claims are not rights going to be not rights going by the definition that we represented earlier. With the expansion of democracy all over the world, there's a greater pressure on government to expect to accept these claims. There are so many claims being made every day, and the government is being burdened to accept all these claims and provide good life to all the citizens of the particular country. So we've talked about human rights, we've talked about the six fundamental rights. Okay, then we've talked about constitutional rights. So these are the different rights which are there in the Constitution, even if the six are the major rights, because other rights are actually derived from them. Let's see here. Some international convenants have contributed to the expansion of rights also. There are so many organizations, big, and which, NGOs and everything that comes, and through that, the meaning of all these rights also increase. International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Right. This national covenant recognizes many rights that are not directly a part of the fundamental right in the Indian Constitution. This has not yet become an international treaty, but human rights activists all over the world would see this as a standard human right. Human rights are actually moral claims. Don't forget that these include right to work, opportunity everyone to earn a livelihood by working, right to safe and healthy working conditions, fair wages that can provide decent standard of living for the workers and their families, right to adequate standard of living, adequate food, clothing and housing, right to social security and insurance, right to health, medical care during illness, special care for women during childbirth, and prevention of epidemics, right to education education, free and compulsory primary education, equal access to higher education. Everybody should have the access to higher education. This thus the scope of rights have been expanding, and the new rights are evolving over time. Year by year we see that right to clean environment, is under the right to life, article 21. So they are results of struggle of the people. These rights have not come overnight. The people have fought for these rights. New rights emerge as societies develop, and as new constitutions are made. The constitution of South Africa guarantees its citizens several kinds of new rights to privacy, so that citizens on their home cannot be searched, their phones cannot be tapped, their communication cannot be opened. Even India has accepted the right to privacy, that people, the citizens have the right to privacy. Nobody can just get your information like that. And so especially when we talk about the digital media, these now they have they whatever we buy, whatever we search, they create our digital profile, and then they try to sell us products. Eventually you will notice if that if you've searched for example this cosmetic cream on Google, then you will end up having all the ads of that particular cream only. So that's how digital profiling is done. You can read more about it on Google itself only. I'm sorry, but yeah, you can read about more digital profiling on Google itself. Right to an environment, that is okay, we've done. Right to have an access to adequate housing, they should have proper houses. Right to have access to healthcare and services, sufficient food and water. No one may be refused emergency medical treatment. Many people think that the right to work, right to health, right to minimum livelihood, right to privacy should be made fundamental right in India as well. What do you think? So do you also think that these rights should be made fundamental right in India? So these rights are there, but these rights have been derived from the some five main fundamental rights there are. What is Amnesty International? International organization of volunteers who campaign on they campaign on human rights. And this organization brings out an independent they bring out reports, independent reports on the violation of human rights. But they're more about human rights all over the world. Claim demand for legal or moral entitlement a person makes on fellow citizens, society, or the government. Convenient promise made by individual groups, countries, to uphold a rule or principle. So these are accepted by the countries, groups and countries, individual, that we'll accept this and we'll obey this. It is legally binding on the signatories. Like signatories can be these individual groups or countries to the agreement or the Dalit, a person who belongs to the caste which are considered low and not touchable, considered and not touchable by others. Dalits are known by their other names such as scheduled caste, depressed class, classes, etc. Ethnic group is a human population whose members are usually identified with either on the basis of common ancestry. So they have a common ancestry. People of an ethnic group are are united by cultural practices. They have common cultural practices, religious beliefs, and historical memories. Traffic, selling, and buying of men, women, or children for immoral purposes. These can be for there are many sorts of immoral purposes for buying and selling women, men, or children. Okay, summon an order issued by a court for asking them to appear before it. Writ a formal document containing, it's an order of a, of the court to the government, issued only by the High Court, and this can only be issued by the High Court and the Supreme Court. The lower subordinate courts, they cannot issue and writ. Okay. So let's come to the exercises of this chapter. Which of the following is not an instance of an exercise of a fundamental right? Parents' properties inherited by the child. Workers from the Bihar go to Punjab to go to work. Okay, they can go because they have the right to reside in job opportunities wherever. The Christian missionary set up claim of missionary schools, promote profess right to freedom, and also culture and religious cultures and educational right to um, set up their own institutions. Men and women improve, government employees get the same salary, everybody right to equality. Okay, then following freedom is not available to the Indian citizen. So you cannot you can, of course, you can criticize the government, start a movement for change, and oppose the central values of the constitution. You are freedom to you have the freedom to speech and expression, but you cannot participate in an armed revolution that actually questions the constitution itself. You cannot do that. You cannot have a coup in the country. That's not legal. Which of the following rights is available under the Indian constitution? Right to work, right to adequate livelihood, right to protect one's culture, right to privacy. So if we talk about 2021, okay, let's talk about year, since we are doing it in September 2021. Okay, then in the 2021, uh, you have the right to work, under mm, Mahatma, Manrega. I'll just write it here. You have the right to work, which is guaranteed, which guarantees 100 days of work in a year. Okay, so you can apply then the Manrega, like Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee. It's in scheme, so that ensures 100 days of minimum work. Right to adequate livelihood, this is not actually available under Indian constitution as of now. Right to protect one's culture, this can be seen, it's just written here, okay, that which one of the following rights is available under Indian constitution. This book was written far back, so it's not updated. Right to protect one's culture, we've already seen the right to conserve the culture under this educational, cultural and educational right. Right to privacy, in the recent years, in the recent last 2 years, today is September 2021, in the, I think, 2 years back, we were given the right to privacy, so that is also there. Name the fundamental rights under which each of the following rights fall. Right to propagate one's religion, um, right to freedom of religion, right to life, you know or abolition of untouchability. Right to life is also, this freedom to, right to have this thing. It's actually under article 21 exactly, but yeah, we can say that it's under fundamental right because it gives the right to um this thing. We can will say that it is under right to freedom because we talk about this right to individual life and personal liberty. Yeah, okay, so that's under that. I'll just write it, right to freedom actually. Right to life and personal liberty. Which of the following statements about the relationship between democracy and the rights is more valid? Every country that is a democracy gives rights to its citizens. Yes, it is. It should give, but not every government which claims that they are democratic. Every country that gives rights to its citizens is, is the is, yes, it is more democratic because giving rights to its citizens is more democratic. Giving rights is good, but it is not necessary for a democracy. No, it is wrong, it cannot. So more valid is this thing. Every government that gives rights to its citizens is a democracy. Okay, are these restrictions, right to freedom justifies giving Indian citizens need permission to visit some border area of the Indian region? Yes, true, because reasonable restrictions. Outsiders are not allowed to buy property in some areas to protect the interest. Yes, it is actually the inner line permit. Okay, the government bans publication of a book that can go against the ruling party in the next election. No,